Let's get one thing straight. This video isn't about blaming women. It's not about hating marriage. And it's definitely not about spreading hate or bitterness. It's about telling the truth. The kind of truth most men feel deep down, but never put into words. Because no one talks about it. Not their friends, not their fathers, not society, not even the men who've already lived through it. And if you're the kind of man who just wants comfort, who'd rather close his eyes and pretend everything's fine, this video is not for you. You can scroll now. But if you've ever looked into the eyes of the woman you love and felt something was missing, if you've ever been loyal to someone who slowly stopped seeing you, if you've ever had the gut feeling that something wasn't right but couldn't explain it, then you need to hear this. Because today we're exposing a silent pattern, a pattern that leaves strong men confused, broken, and doubting themselves. Why married women, yes, the ones with wedding rings, smiling family photos, and anniversary posts, are often the easiest prey. Not because they're evil, not because they're heartless, and definitely not because they're looking for trouble, but because most of them are emotionally starving, because no one teaches them how to speak up when they feel lost, because no one teaches men how to notice when love turns cold. And because this kind of betrayal doesn't start with cheating. It starts with a feeling, a look, a silence, a shift in energy so small most men miss it until it's too late. This isn't about shaming. This is about seeing clearly. Because once you see it, you'll never fall for the same trap again. Let's talk. 1. She's not looking for another man. She's not chasing some guy. She's chasing a part of herself she had to bury. When she said yes to the ring, to the life, to the home, they told her she had it all. The husband, the kids, the house with the picket fence. And for a while, maybe she believed it too. But little by little, something changed. She stopped doing things just for her, stopped dancing in the kitchen, stopped laughing at stupid jokes, stopped dressing in ways that made her feel powerful, not practical. Every day became about keeping the peace, making sure everyone was okay, packing lunches, folding laundry, fixing schedules, managing moods. And somewhere in that blur of responsibility, she disappeared. She didn't mean to. She didn't notice it at first. But then, one day, it hit her. She couldn't remember the last time she felt wanted, not just needed. The last time someone looked at her and saw a woman, not a machine, not a title, not a function. So when a man walks in with calm confidence, when he doesn't look desperate, when he holds eye contact like he's not afraid of her power, he doesn't attract her the way people think. It's not about sex. It's not about running away. It's about something deeper. He makes her feel what she forgot was even there. He wakes up that buried version of her. The one who used to dream, flirt, feel free. The one who didn't constantly carry the weight of everyone else's life. And suddenly, it's not about him at all. It's about her. She just wants to feel like herself again. Not a role, not a robot, not someone's routine. She wants to feel like a woman who's still alive. And that's the beginning of the danger. Because the moment she tastes that feeling again, she starts wondering why she ever gave it up. And if her man at home doesn't notice the shift, doesn't see her reaching for something more, she won't say a word. She'll just drift. Smile on her face, but a fire quietly lit in her chest. For the version of herself she's desperate to find again. 2. She's starving, not for sex, but for significance. She's not out there hunting for affairs. She's hungry for something deeper, not attention for her body, but recognition for her existence. When her husband walks past her without looking up, when he stops noticing the way she did her hair, when he forgets to say thank you for the small things she does every single day, it doesn't break her all at once. It chips away at her. She starts to wonder if anyone even sees her anymore. Not the mom, not the cook, not the scheduler. Her. So when a stranger says something small, "Wow, you look great today. I can't believe you're married. You have the most calming voice." It hits her hard, because it's been so long since anyone said something like that. And no, she's not instantly thinking about running off with the guy. It's not about the man at all. It's about the feeling he unlocked. That sudden rush of being noticed, being seen, being alive. It doesn't take much. Just one compliment at the right moment. Just one pair of eyes that actually look at her. Not past her, not through her, but at her. And for the first time in a long time, she feels like more than someone's background noise. It's not that she planned to cross lines. It's not that she's cold or cruel. It's that she's starving, not for sex, not for escape, but for significance. For the reminder that she's still here, still worth noticing, still someone, and if that feeling doesn't come from home, she'll find it somewhere else. Even if just for a second. Even if it's only in a look, a comment, a message. Because when a woman feels invisible, being seen becomes addictive. 3. Society hides her in plain sight. She's the kind of woman everyone feels safe around. The kind who smiles gently, offers help before anyone asks, and makes everything look warm, loving, and controlled. She doesn't draw attention to herself, at least not the wrong kind. She's not provocative. She's not reckless. She's not the type who breaks rules out in the open. She follows them perfectly. She's what society loves to point at and say, "Now that's a good woman." She volunteers at school. She brings baked goods to events. She keeps a clean house, remembers birthdays, hosts holiday dinners. She plays her part. Wife, mother, support system. Always put together, always appropriate. Never too loud, never too emotional. She wears her wedding ring like a badge of honor. She uploads polished family photos in fall colors, has captions like "My whole world," and grateful for him every day. To the outside world, she's everything a man could want, stable, loyal, safe. And that's exactly why no one looks twice. Because society doesn't suspect the quiet ones. It suspects chaos. It watches the women who go out dancing on weekends, who post thirst traps, who party too hard or speak too freely. The world has painted the unfaithful woman as someone wild and obvious. But that's not where the real danger lies. Because the one who's cheating emotionally, the one who's building a secret world while smiling in yours, is often the one who blends in the best. She's calculated, she's careful, she's in control, and that's what makes her so powerful. While everyone else is distracted by the loud, she hides in the soft, in the sweet, in the predictable. She's learned how to silence her desires in public and feed them in private. She's learned to smile while slowly withdrawing. She's learned to cry when accused, not because she's innocent, but because she knows guilt works better when dressed as hurt. Even her husband, the man who sleeps next to her, doesn't see the cracks forming. She hugs him less. She talks to him less. She gives him just enough to avoid suspicion, but never enough to truly stay connected. And when he asks if something's wrong, she looks him dead in the eye and says, "You're being paranoid." She says it with such confidence, such calmness, that he starts to question himself. That's how strong her mask is. It's not flimsy, it's bulletproof. She knows how to delete messages before they leave a trace, knows how to turn off read receipts, keep her phone face down, answer questions with just enough truth to stay believable. She might be sitting right next to her husband at dinner, but mentally she's with someone else, smiling at a memory she hasn't shared, craving a message that isn't from him. She'll still say, "I love you." She'll still plan vacations. She'll still show up for the anniversary because the image must be protected, and society makes that easy for her. Because the world refuses to believe that a mother can lie, that a gentle woman can betray, that someone who nurtures and supports can also deceive and hide. But the truth is, betrayal doesn't always come with lipstick and late nights. Sometimes it comes with meal prep, quiet sighs, and unreadable eyes. Sometimes it holds a baby in one arm and texts another man with the other. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it sounds like grace. But it's not. It's a performance. It's control disguised as kindness. It's a life built on routine, where the emotions are no longer real, just acted out. And when you finally see it, it's shocking. Because you didn't miss the signs. You just never thought to look for them. She's not loud. She's deliberate. She doesn't make noise. She makes moves. In silence, with precision. She's not obvious. She's invisible, by design. And what keeps her hidden isn't just the mask she wears. It's the world's refusal to believe that a woman who looks like peace could also be the source of pain. But she knows. She knows exactly what she's doing. And the image she's built? That's not just protection. It's power. Because the last place anyone ever thinks to look for betrayal is in the hands of the woman who tucks the kids in at night and kisses you softly while dreaming of someone else. 4. She left the marriage before she ever touched another man. Cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom. It doesn't start with a kiss or a lie, or even a late-night message. It starts long before that, so far back that most men never notice. It begins in silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind. The kind of silence where a connection used to live. It begins when she stops laughing at your jokes, not because they're not funny, but because she's not connected to you anymore. It begins when she asks if you want anything from the store, but doesn't ask how you're really doing. When she listens, but not with interest. When she touches you, but only out of routine. She still does the things she's supposed to do. Dinner gets made, the laundry's done, the house runs like it always has. But something's missing, and you feel it. You can't explain it, but it's there, like a light dimming, slowly enough that your eyes adjust, until one day you realize you've been sitting in the dark for months. She doesn't yell, she doesn't blame, she doesn't leave a mess. She just quietly pulls away, emotionally, mentally, intimately. And because she does it so gently, you don't see it for what it is. You call it stress. You call it exhaustion. You think she just needs a break. But she doesn't need a break. She's already taken one. From you. Piece by piece, moment by moment, she's been detaching. Not from your responsibilities together, but from your connection. She's still your wife on paper, still in the photos, still saying, "Love you too," but not really feeling it. The spark is gone. And what's left is a version of her that goes through the motions, while the real version, the one you once had, is already somewhere else. And here's what's worse. You might still be trying. You might still be showing up. You might be putting in effort, but it feels like you're talking to a wall. Because she stopped hearing you a long time ago. She stopped seeing you. She doesn't argue. She doesn't complain. She just fades. Quietly, subtly, completely. By the time she sends that first message to someone new, by the time she shares a secret smile with a man who isn't you, she's not betraying your marriage. She's finishing the goodbye she started months, maybe even years ago. You think that cheating is the betrayal, but for her, it's the confirmation that she's already left. Emotionally, she checked out long before you ever noticed. And when she finally lets someone else in, she doesn't feel like she's doing something wrong. She feels like she's finally being honest with herself. That's what stings the most, because while you were holding on, she was letting go. While you were fighting for what you had, she was already imagining a life where she didn't have to fake love anymore. And maybe you blame her. Maybe you get angry. But the truth is, she didn't disappear overnight. She gave signs. In the way she stopped lighting up when she saw you. In the way she stopped touching you without being asked. In the way she smiled less and stared at her phone more. In the way she stopped talking about the future and just focused on surviving the present. You didn't lose her the night she crossed the line. You lost her long before that. You lost her the night she turned to face the wall instead of you. You lost her the morning she didn't kiss you goodbye. You lost her in all the little silences that built a wall between you brick by brick. Cheating doesn't destroy a strong bond. It just exposes a bond that was already broken, quietly, slowly, unnoticed. By the time it becomes visible, it's not a crack, it's a canyon. And when she finally steps out, you think it's betrayal. But to her, it's release. Not from the marriage, but from the emptiness she's been pretending not to feel. This is why so many men feel blindsided. Because they thought everything was fine. Because they confused quiet for peace. Because they mistook routine for love. But the truth is, she left long before she ever touched another man. She left when she stopped feeling seen. She left when she stopped feeling alive around you. She left in silence. Because it was easier than explaining a slow death you never even noticed. And by the time you wake up to what's missing, it's not her presence you miss. It's the version of her that already left. And that version, she's not coming back. 5. She hides behind the mask of the good woman. She doesn't come storming in with chaos. She doesn't slam doors, raise her voice, or throw tantrums. She doesn't flirt in public or post anything questionable. In fact, she does the exact opposite. She's graceful, soft-spoken, always appropriate. She remembers birthdays, plans family gatherings, and brings homemade cookies to events. She's polite in every room. She never says too much. She listens, smiles, nods. She posts loving couple selfies with captions like, "My rock," or "Forever grateful." She celebrates anniversaries publicly, even when the private love has already faded. She knows exactly how to present herself. And what she presents is a woman you'd never think to question. That's the mask. That's the trap. Because while she plays the role perfectly, you, the man who shares a bed with her, forget to look past it. You trust her. Why wouldn't you? She doesn't give you obvious reasons not to. She's not hostile. She's not out partying. She doesn't have male friends you feel threatened by. She doesn't give you scenes. She gives you calm, routine, predictability. But behind that routine is something else. Something hidden. A truth that's been growing in silence. You feel it before you see it. Something subtle. A distance that doesn't make sense. She's still saying all the right things. Still cooking dinner. Still folding laundry. Still going through the motions. But her warmth is different. Her affection feels practiced. Her laughter doesn't reach her eyes. She hugs you like she's ticking off a checkbox. She says, "I love you," the way someone says goodnight, out of habit, not emotion. So you ask, gently, is something wrong? And that's when the mask tightens. She looks at you like you're the problem. You're being insecure. You're overthinking. He's just a co-worker. You always do this. Now you feel guilty. You start questioning yourself, doubting your own intuition. Because she's always been good, right? Always been loyal, always been the one people admired. So maybe it is you. Maybe you're paranoid. Maybe it's just stress, just a phase. But deep down, she knows exactly what she's doing. She knew it when she kept that harmless conversation going at work. When she smiled a little longer than necessary. When she checked her phone at night just a little too often. When she started caring about how she looked, but not for you. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't weakness. It was a decision made slowly, built day by day through small emotional cracks. It started with a moment of loneliness, and instead of turning toward you, she turned toward validation, a compliment, a message. a new voice that made her feel something again. At first, she told herself it was innocent. She smiled at her phone and told herself it didn't mean anything. But she didn't stop. She didn't pull away. She fed it. Because validation, for the emotionally neglected, feels like oxygen. And soon, she started living for it. She looked forward to the messages, looked forward to the moments when she felt alive again, not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a woman. And every time you reached for her, every time you tried to reconnect, she pulled away just a little more, because her emotional world no longer involved you. And yet, she kept playing the part. She wore the mask every day, still smiled at dinner, still said, "Love you," before bed. Still took photos that made it look like everything was fine. But behind the screen, she was someone else, a version of herself you no longer had access to. And she protected that version like a secret garden, built on messages, attention, and the thrill of being desired again. You didn't notice when she started silencing notifications, or when she began locking her phone. You chalked it up to privacy, to space, to normal boundaries. But it wasn't normal. It was calculated. She was building a double life inside a single home. One for the world and one for herself. And by the time the truth finally cracks the surface, by the time the mask slips and you see what's been going on, she won't break down. She'll cry, yes. She'll say she felt lonely. She'll say you weren't there for her emotionally. She'll say it just happened. But it didn't just happen. It was built one compromise at a time, one emotional shortcut, one boundary crossed quietly without a sound. And by the time you realize you've been living with a stranger, she's already emotionally gone. She's already imagined her freedom. She's already replaced the connection you once had with one that exists somewhere else. Not always physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And that's the part that breaks you, because you didn't lose her all at once. You lost her one glance at a time, one cold reply at a time, one "I'm just tired" at a time. You thought she was still yours because she hadn't left the room, but her heart left a long time ago. And you're only now realizing the woman you loved wasn't who you were looking at. She was behind a mask. And that mask, it was flawless. So flawless that even you, the man who saw her at her most vulnerable, forgot to ask what she was hiding behind that smile. And this is where Stoicism comes in. Because when things start to crumble, when the warmth turns cold, when her gaze starts drifting and her voice loses its softness, most men fall apart. They panic. They cling. They try everything to patch the leaks in a ship that's already sinking. They pour themselves out, hoping that if they just love harder, apologize more, act sweeter, try again, they'll get the version of her they lost. They scroll through old photos, trying to relive moments that feel like lifetimes ago. They read old text messages like sacred scripts, hoping they missed something, some clue that would explain the shift they never saw coming. They whisper to themselves in the dark, "What happened? Where did she go? Was it something I said? Was I not enough?" They chase the ghost of a love that already slipped away, while she's already living in another emotional dimension, disengaged, distant, disconnected. And by the time the average man realizes what's going on, he's not fighting to save the relationship. He's fighting to feel seen again. He's begging to be chosen by someone who emotionally stopped choosing him months ago. But the Stoic man, he doesn't do that. He doesn't wait for the crash to confirm the fall. He senses it long before impact. He feels it in the silence between conversations. He notices it in the mechanical way she touches him. He hears it in her voice, where love used to live, but now only duty remains. He sees that her phone never leaves her hand. He sees that her smile is now reserved for someone else, even if it's just a name he doesn't know yet. And most importantly, he doesn't ignore what he sees. He doesn't deny what he feels. He doesn't lie to himself to keep the peace. The Stoic man doesn't panic. He doesn't interrogate. He doesn't dig through her phone, looking for evidence he doesn't need, because her energy told the truth long before her words ever did. He doesn't beg for affection. He doesn't try to win her back. He doesn't try to perform his way into being loved again. Why? Because he knows something most men don't. You don't chase what is already walking away. You don't prove your value to someone who's blind to it. He doesn't react, he reflects. He doesn't explode, he exits, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because a Stoic man understands real strength isn't about how tightly you hold on, it's about how gracefully you let go. He doesn't call her out on social media. He doesn't shame her to friends and family. He doesn't throw her mistakes in her face. He just walks, quietly, cleanly, without a need for revenge or drama. And when he leaves, he takes everything that made him valuable, his peace, his focus, his loyalty, his presence, his power. He doesn't leave shattered. He leaves sharpened, not bitter, just better, more aware, more disciplined, more rooted in truth. Because closure to the Stoic man doesn't come from someone else's apology. It comes from within. It comes from seeing reality as it is, not as he hoped it would be. And no, this doesn't mean he didn't care. It doesn't mean he never loved her. It means he loved her enough to try, but he loved himself too much to stay in something that was emotionally dead. That's what Stoicism is. Not cold, not numb, not detached, just clear. Clear on what's real, clear on what can't be changed, clear on what no longer deserves space in his soul. While other men fall to pieces trying to understand her distance, the Stoic man learns the lesson, embraces the silence, and rises from it. Because he knows some battles aren't meant to be won, especially when the person beside you stopped fighting long ago, and walking away from someone who stopped choosing you. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's power, that's Stoicism, if you've ever felt it. That strange, quiet moment where something deep inside her shifted, where her voice still sounded familiar, but her presence didn't feel the same anymore. If you've ever sat in the same room with her but felt like you were in completely different worlds. If you've ever watched her nod while you spoke, but realized her mind was somewhere else entirely, then you already know what I'm talking about. It didn't start with a fight. It didn't start with a lie. It didn't start with another man. It started with a distance, a subtle pulling away. Not with her body, but with her spirit. You gave her your loyalty, your attention, your patience. You were present. You showed up every day. You tried to be the man she needed. You gave her your energy, your comfort, your support. You tried to be the anchor. But slowly, so slowly it almost fooled you, you began to fade from the spotlight of your own relationship. She stopped noticing the little things about you. She stopped lighting up when you walked in the room. She stopped asking about your thoughts, your dreams, your day. And when you spoke, she nodded, but her eyes didn't reflect the same interest they used to. She started holding her phone like it was an extension of her hand. It buzzed and she lit up. But when you spoke, she barely flinched. You sat next to her on the couch, but the space between you felt like miles. You reached out for connection and got eye rolls, sighs, indifference. You asked for time. She said she was tired. You asked what was wrong. She said nothing, but that nothing felt heavier than any argument ever could. You told yourself, she's stressed. It's just a busy week. She's overwhelmed. This will pass. So you tried harder. You stopped bringing things up. You softened your tone, avoided the hard conversations. You gave her more space, thinking it was respect, not realizing that the more space you gave, the more she used it to drift even further. And deep down, You felt it. You felt the crack in something that used to feel unbreakable, not a crack caused by one big moment, but one caused by thousands of small, invisible moments. That's the betrayal nobody talks about. Not the betrayal of physical touch with another man, but the betrayal of emotional presence. The kind where she's there, but not with you. Love turns into a routine. Affection becomes duty. You're not hated. You're just ignored. And you tried to bring it back. You tried to recreate the spark, reignite the closeness, resurrect the love. But it felt like hugging a ghost, like speaking to someone behind glass, like giving and receiving silence in return. Maybe you stayed anyway, hoping, believing, waiting for the version of her you loved to return. But here's the truth. She had already left. She just didn't tell you. Because leaving physically is loud, but leaving emotionally, that happens in silence, in glances that avoid eye contact, in conversations that never go deeper than surface, in nights lying next to each other but feeling oceans apart. And now you've seen it. Now you've felt it. And once you feel that emptiness, that ache of loving someone who no longer sees you, you can't unfeel it. You can't go back to pretending. That tightness in your chest, that confusion in your mind, that heaviness in your heart when you're doing everything right and still feel like you're not enough. That was your wake-up call. And if this hit you, if you finally feel like someone gave words to the ache you couldn't explain, drop the word aware in the comments. Because awareness is power. It's the turning point. It's the moment you stop asking for answers from someone who stopped speaking the truth. It's the moment you stop begging for love and start reclaiming your self-respect. If you're tired of chasing validation from someone who gave up on you silently, if you're done being a placeholder in someone else's emotional story, if you're ready to stop breaking your back to fix what she's already walked away from emotionally, subscribe. This space isn't for men who want to stay blind. It's not for men who want sugar-coated lies and false hope. It's not for those who keep loving someone who's only showing up in body, but not in soul. It's for the ones who are done with being ignored, done with being manipulated by silence, done with sitting in the dark, waiting for a light that won't come back on. It's for men who are ready to lead themselves out of confusion, with clarity, with calm, with control. Men who walk away, not because they gave up, but because they finally realized they were the only ones still fighting. Men who choose dignity over desperation, self-worth over shame, and truth over illusion. Stay sharp, stay stoic. And remember, don't chase her words, watch her actions. Because when people think you're not paying attention, that's when their truth leaks out. And once you see it, once you really know it, you never fall for the mask again.